Hey guys, welcome to the Body and Soul Shop. I hope you're doing great today. I want to show you a little bit about wet sanding and buffing, go through the techniques. Somebody requested that I do that the other day, so we're going to follow through with that. A lot of you guys already know this, the different techniques and different products and stuff, but for those of you who don't, I'm going to share what I know. Okay, so today Bobby's in here helping us. He's sanding all the firewall and getting stuff ready. He's hitting it with 180. Then we'll probably prime it one more time and 320 it the next time and then seal it and shoot it. So he's just going over all the nooks and crannies, getting in the tight spots that really matter. Remember, always sand in the spots that you don't want to, because if you don't, your paint's going to pop off. Okay, so today we're going to try to put the 60s custom truck up on this rotisserie. We'll be able to flip it upside down and get the bottom side of the truck finished out the way we want it to. And it'll just make it a whole lot easier on the rotisserie other than trying to be underneath it on the floor and trying to work that. So we'll show you that as we get it up and get it flipped and everything. So let's get to it. I'm going to show you the exact products that I use in my process. I'm not saying that's the right way, but it's been good for me over the years. So maybe you guys know some other tricks that I don't know, and that's cool. I always start out on the clear coat with 1000 grit, and then I go to 1500 when I'm wet sanding. I use these half sheets, they call them, and I use soft blocks. Here, let me get a good shot of this. This is what I use. It's got a little bit harder side. This dark side's harder, then the back side is softer. But 99.9% of the time I use this harder side of it. And what I do is I line up the top edge of that like this, and then pull it tight and fold it back and fold it over itself again. And then I hold it on the sides like this when I'm wet sanding. When you're wet sanding, you gotta have some water there and keep it good and wet. Now I'm gonna tell you, if you hear or feel a scratchy sound under it, stop immediately, because that means you picked up some dirt or something and you're gonna be grinding that into your clear coat and you'll have a mess. I will share an experience that I had many years ago. I went to 2500 grit on a black car that I was doing. It was a black 47 Lincoln, really nice custom high dollar car. Anyway, Gary Miser and I were working on it. We were wet sanding it, hit it with 2500, and when I started buffing it, I seen all these lines in it, and I'm like, what in the world is that? And I went back and checked my sandpaper, and the whole ream of sandpaper had a hard line through it. It was just a factory defect. So I didn't catch it when I was wet sanding, but when I started buffing, oh my goodness, black, and it was really deep, and you could see these grooves cut in it, and I'm like, oh no. Fortunately, there was enough clear on it. I went back with 1500 and was able to wet sand it all out and buff it, and I didn't have any more problems. That's only once in 43 years that that's happened to me. So, but anyway, the other thing too, I'm going to tell you that if you're sanding on something rounded, like the headlight buckets that I'm doing, you got to consider when you start sanding in a round way, this stuff's going to start folding up, and it can get a crease in it too as you're ratising it. So be really conscious of that if you're on a rounded surface, that your sandpaper doesn't get wadded up or start getting wrinkles in it, and you keep cutting a groove in it that way. So that's a couple little tips that I'm going to give you. What I particularly use, I like this brand right here. I've been using it for a long time. I use a wool pad on the #1 on the mild compound here. On this one I use a foam pad. And then this is a hand glaze that I put on with microfiber rag, much like you would wax, just do a small area and then hand rub it off. This stuff here will really make a difference. You wouldn't think so, but if you're doing a black car and you actually stop at a certain point just to see, you'll be able to tell a difference in the gloss when you're hand glazing it at the end. It helps to take out any little fuzziness or whatever. So that's what I use. I use a wool pad on the compound, and they also make a foam pad, but my personal experience with the foam pad has been that it burns the paint a lot easier than a wool pad does. I don't know what the deal is, but a few times I'm like, you know what, I'm going back to the wool pad because it's always treated me good. So that's what I use on the compound. So when I'm doing the machine polish, I use this black foam pad, and I love it. They work out really good, and it really brings the shine up. So that's the products I use, and that's the process that I do. When I'm between the compound and the final glaze, a lot of times, once the compound's pretty much gone off of the part that I'm wet sanding, I'll spray it with a little bit of water, just kind of mist it, and I'll keep hitting it with that wool pad, and it actually brings it up even more. And funny thing was, I had two brothers that were military guys, and they used to have to spit shine their shoes, and that's how that thought came to me one day. I thought, I wonder what happens if I just spray a little bit of water on, just a light mist, and then buff it. And I was shocked how much more that took the swirls and stuff out of it and brought it up glossier before I even used the glaze. So that's just one of the little tricks I've learned. I will get busy and we'll buff this side panel, this exhaust panel. As you can see, Chase had pinstriped it, and it's always kind of a little bit unnerving to wet sand that because you don't want to break through into your pinstriping. But I put 4 coats clear on it, and it's all wet sanded out. I started with 1,000, went to 1,500, so it's ready to buff now, and you can't feel the pinstriping lines at all. They're gone, so it's all smooth. Now, one thing I want to warn you about, I had 2 painters around here that are good painters. I have respect for them, and both of them within a month of each other's phone call called me and said, "Paul, my clear's not drying." This was 2 separate incidents, 2 different guys, and they said it's thumbprinting, and even after days we can't wet sand and buff it. And they used the exact same products that I did. So I said, "Well, how many coats did you put on?" "Oh, we put 5 on it." Okay, so the only thing I could conclude was they didn't give it enough time in between the coats, and they put too much on at one time, because I haven't had that issue using the exact same product. So just want to warn you about that. But what I'm saying is 4 coats for me has been sufficient to be able to wet sand and not feel the edge on the pinstriping and not blow through. But that's always kind of unnerving when you're blocking right on a pinstripe. You don't want to break through it because then you got a mess. But anyway, so we're good to go. I didn't break through anywhere that I've seen, and we're going to buff that up, and you can see how we do it. So they have a spur that you can clean your wool pad with, and I had one, but somewhere it disappeared. So I use a screwdriver. Now, be careful. You want to watch the rotation of your buffer. Don't ever go against that, or you'll have a bad accident. You could stick yourself with a screwdriver. And always just keep it at an angle. So here we go. All that's doing is getting the old compound out of it, getting it loosened up again. This compound, when it sits a little bit, it'll start getting kind of hard, so you just want to get all that out of there, and we're good to go. So I'm just going to put out a little line like that. I'm going to take my buffer. Before I turn it on, I'm just going to kind of spread it out a little bit. That way it's not slinging everywhere so much, okay? Alright, so you see how dull this is right now? And we're going to bring that up to a nice high gloss here in just a couple minutes. Okay, here we go. Always keep your pad just tilted a little bit. You don't want it flat. You want it tilted up just a little bit. Okay, I'm going to put a little bit more compound on it and do the same process. But you can see how fast that's coming up. Like I said before, some guys want to push it to 2,500, 3,000. That's fine if that's what you want to do. I personally haven't done that in a long time. I hit it with 15 and I start buffing, and I don't really think it takes me any longer than it would take somebody to wet sand it with 2,500 and 3,000, whatever. I think it comes up pretty quick. So here we go. Not applying a whole lot of pressure either, just a little bit. If you don't have somebody to hold the part for you, sometimes I'll tape it down or whatever, maybe wrap it around something, or bungee strap with microfiber rags or something around it, whatever you got to do to keep it from flying off there. You can catch it real easy and pitch your part off if you're not careful. All right, now we're going for the money shot. This is what you're going to see the most part is this right in here. Cha-ching. Okay, so that's just one pass over this scallop part with compound. We're going to keep going, but see how quick it's coming up to a nice gloss. All right, I'm just going to spritz this thing down. That's compound on there, but it's pretty much picked up or pretty much used up. And I'm just going to spritz this thing just a little bit with some water, and we're going to hit it again. Okay, now I'm going to take my microfiber rag and just lightly wipe over that. Get the light bit of residue and stuff off of it, and then we'll switch out pads to the foam pad, and we'll foam glaze this. Okay, so there's a little bit of gap around the backside of this wool pad. It's a Velcro pad. You want to try to keep that as centered as possible, because if that pad's off center, it will actually wobble, and you could actually make little grooves in your clear coat. I mean, you'd have to be on it pretty hard, but I've seen it happen before. So just try to make sure everything's always centered the best that you can, so it's a nice smooth polish. This one doesn't have a mark on it, so you just kind of got to eyeball it, center it up the best you can. It's got a little bit of wobble to it. It's not bad. I'm not so concerned about it on the foam pad as I am the wool pad. The wool pad will cut more. This is the Perfected machine polish. Once again, I'm going to wipe it around a little bit, kind of even it out so it doesn't sling everywhere so bad. Be able to see the difference hopefully on the camera. Right in here is where we stop with the glaze. You can kind of see this side's a little bit duller than this side is. I don't know if you can see that or not. Hopefully you can. So we'll machine glaze this right here, and that'll even all that out. But you can tell the difference between not machine glazed and machine glazed. That's wet sanded and buffed. Probably got an hour and 15 minutes in the whole process on this one side piece here. So I'm not going to do the hand glaze right at this point in time. I'll do this when the truck's pretty much all put together. We'll do that as the last step. This will bring a little bit better shine on the final when we hand wipe it down. But right now that's what we got: compound and foam glaze. You can wipe your hand over that. It's super smooth, and you cannot feel that stripe on here. And then I just take my microfiber rag and do that final wop over it, and we're good to go. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing with the hood scoop. It's already been wet sanded. We're just going to buff it out real quick. That way it's ready to go when we're ready to go. So thanks to Chase Spears. He pinstriped this thing and did an awesome job. And I'm excited to see it buffed and come up. We'll see what it looks like here in just a minute. That's a nice reflection on you. Hey, thanks for watching. I hope that helps a little bit, answer some of your questions, and that's how I do it. Not saying I'm right, but it's worked for me for many years. So just want to tell you guys we really appreciate you watching. Hopefully you've learned something, and don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button, and we'll see you real soon. God bless you, man. Have a wonderful day. Appreciate you.